PSG, you mentioned the Champions League, are the European Cup winners now after their victory over Inter Milan yesterday. And as we know, traditionally in August, the winner of the Champions League takes on the winner of the Europa League. So this will be for the European Super Cup. It'll mean that PSG will face Tottenham. How do you see that one playing out?
I think Spurs need a few signings.
Yeah, just a few.
I think it's a great test for Spurs because obviously, next season is going to be big for them. European Champions
League as well, yeah.
It's going to be big for them. And they've witnessed last night, anybody who's associated with football who witnessed the performance last night knows that this team they're going to be up against is going to be one of the leading candidates for the team every year in the Champions League, are going to be seriously dangerous because they are. Their work rate is exceptional. I can't remember a team in every position on the pitch that works so hard as they do. And it'd be interesting to see how Tottenham get on because, Ange Ball is not really Ange Ball as like we first saw when he first got the job. That's changed. But they've still got to hurt teams and play their offensive style, which, at the end of the season, they weren't quite doing that, were they?
No.
But it's a big change for them.
Anyway, back pages.
Yes, well,
what are you picking out?
Inevitably loads to. I mean, the PSG extraordinary game. Some of the papers got it in the first edition. Sunday Mirror, PSG Whiz. I like that. Sunday Express. Today is to do a. I thought that was that was a good headline. And also, I mean, particularly in the later editions, the photographs Luis Enrique celebrating and just this exuberance of this young French team. I mean, just stardust all over the pitch. I know we're going to be talking about them more in depth later, so I'll just spin through some of the others. Interesting piece by Mike McGrath on the front of the Sunday Tales pullout, which I imagine lasted all editions because it's a good story. Postecoglou facing D-Day. Obviously, he's off on holiday. Daniel Levy's been away, and it looks like there may be some decision this week.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Mike's story being that he expects him to go.
Yeah.
Rather than it.
What's your gut feeling?
My gut feeling is the mood music is that he's going to go, and
we said that about Ten Hag.
Well, this is the thing. But have they learnt from the Ten Hag experience? Do you think?
You don't give him £200 million when things are on the slide.
And
anyway.
Also, when you look at PSG last night, you think
that Super Cup's going to be lively.
We should remind people it is PSG v Spurs. Goodness me, but. Ange likes to play with a bit of entertainment and stuff like that. It's just he doesn't have the tactics that Enrique's got. Ange Ball without tactics, Luis Enrique.
Yeah, discuss. I think it'll be a short discussion. I mean, everyone was saying it's Ange Ball, but then actually in the final, a few people made the point it was Ange Wall with the so he can sort of tweak his tactics. But this is a point that Mike makes in his piece is that Daniel Levy will inevitably look at the fact that finished 17th, 22 defeats. That's unacceptable. He talks about the runners and riders. I'm just checking that Natalie is far from the building. Thomas Frank obviously linked with the Post. Marco Silva is also being linked in some of the papers with Juventus job. It's unsettling for fans of Brentford and Fulham. But one thing in the end, which I missed out on, that Ryan Mason is off to West Brom as head coach.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, so I was a bit slow on the up.
Well, maybe it's time for Ryan Mason to break out a bit. He's been around the Spurs scene for quite a long time, going back to when he even led the team in a League Cup final.
Well, he might be caretaker for the Super Cup if he stays. Just one final story, Shaun, if we got time.
We have.
Yeah, I mean, Danny Murphy. I mean, Riyadh Al Samrai is away at the moment, so Danny Murphy has taken over his column in the Mail on Sunday. It's a really interesting point. He said he got it wrong about Bruno. He maybe didn't give him the sort of the kudos that he sort of deserved, but he makes the point that, and the headline is, selling Bruno would be devastating for Manchester United. And do you know what? I imagine United fans are fairly split on this because he is their best player, 20 assists, 19 goals, all comps this season. He does care. He is the best of a fairly average bunch, but he is closing on 31. If they can get 100 million quid off Al Hilal, as long as they then invest it wisely, which is always an issue, or certainly has been in the past with Manchester United, then they must be tempted. I would have thought there are other players that they would be thinking of selling first, like Anthony, Sancho, Rashford, Casemiro. But the other thing, I was just looking at this yesterday, the amount of money they still owe other clubs. It's almost like 200 million this year.
Yeah, and then the year after, and the year after.
Yeah.
They still have payments. There's a heck of a lot.
Yeah, which they do. But then the Deloitte's report came out in midweek, which showed them as the second sort of most valued club in the world after, I assume, Real Madrid.
I wonder how far do you think Manchester United are behind PSG, by the way?
What, as a football team, as a financial team?
Well, as a football team. How many years is that going to take to catch up?
I mean, you look at the subs that PSG bought on, and they would all start for Manchester United.
Amorim was saying, going back to Bruno, that when he was talking to him during the week, he felt that Bruno wanted to stay. He said he looked into his eyes and he thought he wanted to stay. I wonder if there's a rift between Amorim and the top brass about whether or not they should sell Bruno.
Well, do we know that the top brass definitely want to sell him?
But it sort of sounds like that. I mean, they could overrule Amorim and say, no, we need to cash in.
It's a difficult sell to the fans if it's only 80 million. If it's north of 100 million, then I think maybe a few more would be persuaded, particularly if they get linked during the week with potential incomings. I mean, he's a good player, but I had this sort of slight, not issue, but I had a sort of exchange with a few Manchester United fans on social media because I did a piece on just saying Bruno Fernandes. This is a couple of weeks ago. Just saying Bruno Fernandes is a fantastic player and he's the best at Manchester United clearly at the moment, and he genuinely cares. I know he flaps his arms and he moans a bit, but he genuinely cares about Manchester United, not simply on the pitch, but some of the things he's done behind the scenes. James Ducker wrote a very good piece in the Telegraph on it. You know, how he's helped out sort of staff members, people who've left. Like that. But he would get on the bench in one of Ferguson's great sides, the 94 double winners, the 99 treble winners. Obviously, it goes from 3 to 5 subs, so it's sort of slightly easier. And obviously, the 2008 team onwards. But, you know, is he a Manchester United great? I don't think so.
Probably not. But the message is, I think, always keep your Brunos if you've got a good one in midfield, I would say.
Yes, and who would you be thinking of? Presumably you voted for him as many times as you could as footballer
Just
of the year.
one person that Amorim does want to get rid of, though, is Garnacho, who, according to the Sun, Richard Moriarty, has made Chelsea his number one choice this summer.
Well, I was at the City Ground last weekend. I mean, do Chelsea need another wide player? I mean, they've got Madueke, who's good, and Kunku's probably, I mean, he can play as a 10. He's certainly not a 9. He can play slightly out wide. They've got Pedro Neto, who can play out wide. Sancho's obviously going back to Manchester United with £5 million for Chelsea not signing him. I mean, sort of extraordinary deals that go on in this modern world. We give you £5 million because we don't want him. So I would have thought
Starmer does that with the Chagos Islands, doesn't he?
Oh, do they?
He pays them to take them off us. Anyway, it's similar.
Oh, right. You'd be reading the front pages.
Yeah,
right. I must get around to that at some point. I mean, they need a centre forward and a goalkeeper before they need another winger.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.